Okay, so we want to play in the key of A flat now. C is the third. If our lowest playable note is C, C is the third of A flat. So we would play like this. Where's the R? That's A flat right there. You see the blue note's the A, and that's the A flat right there. So we have all 12. And I made the string shapes. Okay, so we can, just continue on like that almost till we're done. C is the sixth of the key of E flat. C is the second of the key of B flat. We just pick up the string shapes from there. And last but not least, C is the fourth of the key of G. We pick up the string shapes from there. Okay, now this has to do with the scales and whether we want to do a cutout or play the string shape and do a cut in, depending on where we want to find the blues notes. So in today's lecture, we're not going to necessarily be favoring the open string on the B string at all times, depending on whether we want to get to that blues note, which is the tritone, when we do the blues magic key. Blues magic key gives us the 7 flat, the 3 flat, okay, and gives us the 7 flat and the 3 flat for free. We have to add the tritone. Okay, so that's the blues note, is the tritone of the key that we're playing the blues in. So that's what that note is. Depending on the guitar tuning or the capo placement, each cage has the same lowest note that does not change in all the cages. All cages are fret 0 to 4. So each one of these cages is actually the fret nut or the capo for our purposes. Of course, you can do it from any note once you get good enough. So if I'm playing like a long pattern, say root 2 3, I can start that root from anywhere, right? I can any key anywhere. Uh-oh, forgot about the tuning third. Okay, on that last string. So you can start once we learn these, but to identify all 12 cages. So here they are. We're not looking at blues magic. We're going to shuffle that over because that's going to confuse us if we don't get this idea first. So previously we talked about dot scales. Okay. Now today the dot is going to be the lowest playable note. Okay, and we're going to be playing in the open string zone, fret 0 to 4. So the lowest playable note will be the dot. The fret nut is the low double dot. Is it not? We look at the dot scale. You know what the dot scale is. If we're looking at, let's say we're looking at an E. It's in your tuning. So we're looking at in the normal tuning, okay, down E tuned. Okay, the E would be the 3, right? That's our E note right there, okay? But it's the third in the key of C. So what is the dot scale? The dot scale is a major scale that starts 2 whole steps down from the dot. In our case, the dot is the lowest playable note. Put Mr. Capo on here. This is the E is the lowest playable note. Put Mr. Capo on the D. D is the lowest playable note. Okay, so that's where the dot is. We're going to derive the dot scale. Now it's very interesting because if you look at the E note as having a dot there, in my guitar, the E note's right here. Then the dot scale is simply the C major scale. Okay, so that gives us 7 easy ways to play off of that E. So let's look at that E on piano. We have the E, okay? So we have our E here. E is the third of C, the second of the key of D, root of the key of E, the seventh of the key of F, the sixth of the key of G, the fifth of the key of A, the fourth of the key of B, and the third of the key of C. So that gives us 7 out of the 12. Now, we look at the dot scale and we look at its accidentals in the dot scale. Those are the other 5 keys that E could be. Another easier way is to just look, where's that dot scale is also a pentatonic scale, so these are the dot scale flatted scales. If you want to look at it, forms a pentatonic major scale on the second of the key of R. R in our case would be E, so it's going to be a pentatonic scale on the key of E. On the second, it'd be F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, C sharp, and D sharp. Okay, and those are the black keys. Those are the flats that were missing out of the 12 in the dot scale. So we can say that what E is, we could do it with C. The dot scale is, well, let's stick to E so that we have our accidentals. Okay, so then we say that I've written it as C here, root equals C, so we better stick to C. But it works really nice with the key with the E note. Okay, because the keys will be all the white keys for the dot scale and all the black keys on a piano for the flatted dot scale. So if we go and look at C, C is the third of A flat. Okay, so C is the third of A flat, the second of B flat, the root of C, the seventh, okay, of D flat, the sixth of E flat, the fifth of F, okay, the fourth of G, all right, and the third of A flat. That's the dot scale. Now, the flats at that point, we're looking at C now, are the remaining keys, which are one whole step up of pentatonic scale, starting from one whole step up from the dot. So we have C is the what? C is the flatted seventh of the key of D. Okay, and then we look at, it's the flatted sixth. Is it the flatted seventh of the, it's definitely the flatted seventh of the key of D. Right, so let's just follow this right here so I don't get confused. C is the flatted seventh of the key of D. Okay. It is the flatted sixth of the key of E. It is the flatted fifth of the key of G flat. It is the flatted third of the key of A, and it is the flatted second of the key of B. So I just showed you there. It's a root pentatonic scale on the second of the root scale. So root scale of C, dot scale of A flat, okay, and then flatted dot scale for A flat, okay. So that's pretty much, we can go like, here's the flatted dot pentatonic, so we can go, you'll be more more comfortable. But right now we're just trying to define the string shape. So what would it come up with? Again, we have the 12 cages here. Okay, we have the long, the E long, the C long. Okay, so I'm going to give you the modes here. E long Ionian, the C long Lydian. Okay, the Locrian, which is the E7 root 2. Okay, it's the long because we have a string shape here. All right, but while I got you on this string shape, look at this 4 and 5 here. That's where your tritone is in that particular key. The key of the second, the key of 2, the second in the scale that starts from root. So we might want to go 7 root 2 3 4 5 6 7 root 2 3 4 5 6 instead of 2 3 4 5 6. If this was a blues magic, we'd want 5 6 of the blues magic key, but don't this is blues magic for this particular root. Okay, but if it was blues magic, we'd want the 5 6 of the blues magic key, which is the 4th of the 4th, which is simply a whole step below the root scale. And then the whole thing works for blues magic, but you add the blues notes. So in blues magic, we add the blues notes between the 5th and the 6th of blues magic, which is the 4th and the 5th of the regular. It's a bad example because I started to just getting our feet wet in this stuff. So we would select the 2, 3, and then to 4, 5. So we isolated the tritone, so we can play. So we can play that blues. Okay. Now, if we have the root, let's say this is the root is the bottom note here. C is G. We're in the key of 2. That's the key of D. Okay. So I know right here on my guitar I can see that D. So I get that verification. We got 7 root 2, 3 4 5 6 7 root 2 3. But now we're going to go 2 3 4 blues 5. Okay, now how come we only have one funky note, the tritone? You can't really play much blues with, you're trying to go. You get one blues note. That's not quite as, that's not as good as playing in Mixolydian. If you're going to play in Mixolydian, right, you get one blues note for free, and you get the tritone to add that in. When you play in the 4th of the 4th, which is no longer Mixolydian, it's the key of the 4th of the 4th, which is the blues magic key. You get 2 free flats, the flat 3rd and the flat 7th, and then just add in the tritone. The tritone is what we're adding in. The tritone is on the C. Well, we're talking about blues, because if we skip the blues, I know this looks like CSS, and that confuses me. It's C string shape equals the blues note. Okay? Blues magic key. Add blues note to the blues magic key, the tritone. So here it is. Alright, so it would be between the 4th and the 5th of the root scale. Here's the root scale. Here's the blues magic scale. Look at root. Look at 2. Root is the 2nd of the blues magic scale because root is the 2nd of the 4th of